Magnus came, Magnus saw, Magnus conquered. This has been the story of chess for more than a decade now, and it was no different at the Tata Steel Chess Tournament Blitz Section 2024. Magnus is not even a full-time chess player. He's like a part-timer. He is launching new businesses, he's launching new apps, he's raising funds for something. And despite that, he's, winning these tournaments, which are some of the strongest chess tournaments in the world. How does Magnus do that? How does he do that? I don't know. But I'm going to show you the crucial round that Magnus was playing in this tournament against none other than Arjun Erigaisi. And Arjun and Magnus, whoever was going to win this round would most likely win the Blitz section of the tournament. So yes, Arjun was very, very close to winning the Blitz section. However, with Magnus, if there is Magnus in any tournament, the favorite to win that tournament has been Magnus for now more than a decade. We'll see how this game goes on. So we have Arjun open with d4, Magnus plays knight f6, and if you notice, Arjun is playing some good openings. He's not playing some tricky openings, trashy openings or anything. He's playing good openings. Against Magnus you can't make bad openings, but also I wouldn't be surprised if one day Arjun plays some bad openings against Magnus. So we have bishop f5 here. Both sides are developing their pieces. The knight goes here. So that was the point of not going knight f3. White wanted to put the knight on g3, kick the bishop back. Now he finally puts the knight here and asks this bishop what it is gonna do. At the same time, this is attacked. So black decides it's time to give up the bishop. Magnus plays h6, pushes the bishop back. g6 pushes the queen back, and now he gets the queen out. Arjun develops the other bishop. Now there comes this move g5 from Magnus, and once Magnus plays g5, it is quite clear that he's most likely not going to castle to the short side. He's going to castle to the long side, and that decides how white is going to play from here on. So first the bishop goes to g3. We have captures, and now Magnus long castles. Arjun says, okay, the king is here. I need to start an attack against this king. So first he plays rook b1. What do you do now? Now most players here would be tempted to play h5, h4 and start an attack here. However, Magnus is of course not like most players. He's not going to, he understands that there could be some danger if this pawn starts rolling. So first he plays king b8. He gets his king to safety away from this line where the queen is standing on. There comes b4. Now Magnus pushes this pawn to h5. We have the knight going to a4. Now the rook comes to c8, and a very, very important move, because you don't want to allow b5 and just allow this pawn to attack your c6 pawn. So rook c8 is a counter to, is a way to stop this b5 advance. Okay, very important move. The knight comes to c5, and we have the rook going to c7. Very nice move. I like it how he's defending the 7th rank and at the same time putting the rook on the same file as the queen. We have a4 from Arjun. Magnus pushes the pawn to h4. We have a5. Both sides are trying to create counterplay on respective flanks. White is trying to attack here. Black is trying to attack on the other side. Now the queen drops back. The threat is to capture here, open the h file and invade along the h file. So Arjun decides, no, the h file has to remain closed so that there is no threat to my king. And now we get rid of one pair of rooks. Okay. And Arjun says, now I will create more weaknesses on the black. Near the black king. Magnus says, okay, I have to defend this pawn, I cannot let it go. And we have captures, and we reach this position. And if you notice in this position, Arjun has a bishop against a knight. A bishop likes when there are pawns or when there is play on both sides of the board, and a knight doesn't like that. So in this position could be slightly favorable to the side with the bishop. However, this is a blitz tournament, and in a blitz tournament you have very little time, so it's often harder to exploit these weaknesses. So we have knight d7. Now there comes the move bishop f5. The knight centralizes, goes to f6, f3. Very nice move, taking control of both these squares, taking those away from the knight. The queen comes to g7. Magnus wants to create play on the queen, on the king side. The bishop drops back, keeps this pawn protected, and now the queen charges forward, attacking this pawn. Now the best way to defend this pawn was to play king f2. And the idea is later you can, like, let's say Magnus gives a check like this, you can just keep attacking this pawn. Like if ever you go rook e7, there could be rook b3, this pawn could be loose. So you want to defend this pawn with the king. Instead, what Arjun does is that he plays the move rook b3. This rook has been left completely passive here. It's only staring down at its own pawns, and it is not the best place that the rook wants to be. Magnus puts the knight back on e8, and now we have a trade of queens. Okay, now the rook comes to e7, attacks the pawn, and here you'll see the difference between having the king on f2 and the rook on b1 and having the rook here. The rook on b3 is just stuck to defending the pawn. It can't move. Whereas if the king would have defended this pawn and this rook would have been on b1, the rook would have moved to h1 and attacked this pawn. So the activity of this rook was very, very important for Arjun. There comes the move king f2, keeping that pawn protected. Knight goes to c7, attacks this pawn. And it's very nice to see how Magnus keeps building his pressure. You know, these are the kind of positions, these are the kind of endgames where Magnus absolutely thrives. The bishop drops back, keeps the pawn protected. The pawn is cut off from any support from this bishop. It's once again isolated. The way to defend this pawn now is to play something like rook a3 and keep it protected. However, in doing so, you get this rook on a very, very passive square. This rook doesn't feel really happy there. So Arjun decides, let me go for counterplay. But in doing so, what ends up happening is that he loses 2 pawns. And in the end game, 2 pawns losing, being a pawn down is usually not a good thing. Especially against a player like Magnus. The rook drops back. Magnus attacks the rook. You cannot capture the rook. Otherwise, there is a check and then you lose the rook and Magnus has a winning endgame. So the rook has to go. But now there is an open file for the black rook here. So you have captures. And now this pawn is also starting to roll. It's just a few steps away from queening. The Arjun tries to create some counterplay in the center. We have a check. The king has to drop back and the other pawn starts marching as well. Seeing that, it's very, very hard to stop these pawns from rolling forward. Arjun stopped the clock here and resigned. And Magnus won the game, and eventually he won the tournament. And he just shows why he is considered to be the GOAT, one of the greatest chess players of all time, if not the greatest of all time. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you like watching such game reviews, do consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in another video. Bye bye.